guys, I'm going to briefly go over some of the main monobehavior game loop functions that you will often see in Unity and with Unity tutorials. I want to do this because as you go through these tutorials, now that you're a second year student, it's really time to start to realize why you're typing something in and not just copying without knowing the back behind it. First year, we actually just kind of use the tutorials. You may know that you're initializing something here, doing something else here, but you don't really know why you're using things the way you are. Second year, you should really start to actually try to put things together and know why you do it so that at some point you can write your own code. That may not happen this year. It does take a while to where you can just start typing things in automatically, but you should at least know when you're following a tutorial why something is being used the way that it is. So the first few we're going to go over are the ones that you will see more often. They are the main monobehavior game loop functions that you will see over and over. Awake, start, and update. They are in this order because this is the order they're called. Awake is called before anything else. That's why you're normally going to see variables initialized here. So for an example, if you have a fire gun variable that's going to shoot your gun, you would initialize it in awake before anything else is done so that when it's used later on in start or update, it knows what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, so any variables are usually initialized in awake. That way they're done right off the bat. You can use them at any time after that. In GameMaker, this is more like the start section of our code. Okay, so in GameMaker they call it create. So if we pull up GameMaker here, this create is kind of like that awake function in Unity. This is where we initialize variables. So we're setting can shoot to true for this game, cooldown time to a certain amount. This is where we are initializing things. Start and update are more like our step and end step events. Okay, so then you're actually putting the bulk of code in and other things. So start is called after awake. It's where you can actually start to do things, but it's only used once per object. So that might be something where you set up references to different objects or do anything that only needs to happen one time. We only need to start it up one time. Update is called once per frame, so it's used more often. So this is something that if you constantly need to check for something, the example that I use here is checking for user input or positions. So if you hit space to shoot, you can do that. If you're moving the right arrow key, it's going to check and update that position as it goes. So update is for things that need to happen quite a bit. These are the main things that you're going to see quite a bit in the tutorials you use. You've probably already seen them if you were in Unity at all last year, and hopefully this just helps you make the connection of why they do some things with awake, some things start, and so on. I give an example down here. So this is start being used, and this is with the invoke repeating function. I'm not going to go through each one of these. You can actually read through this yourself, or you can go into a Lynda tutorial for Unity and C#, and they'll go over this in more detail. But I wanted to at least give you an example. So invoke repeating is something that is called at a certain interval. So the example that I use here is that fire gun, okay, so we're shooting, but we only want it to be able to happen every 5 seconds, and it's only going to be called one time for this object. Then after that, it will just keep repeating every 5 seconds, so it doesn't need called again, it's automatically set up. So we're not checking for the space input, or we would have put this under void update. Very important to realize the difference there. This is under void start, so this would probably be your enemy AI. You want it to continually shoot every 5 seconds without stopping. Okay, so it can't be stopped. And that's how that's going to happen. So void start, invoke repeating, fire gun. So invoke repeating is just the preset Unity function. Fire gun is a variable that we would set in awake. And then this 0.001 actually just means 0. 0 usually causes a bug in code, so we use 0.001. And then this 5 means that it's going to repeat every 5 seconds. In this case, 5F, I said 4 seconds, it's 5 seconds. So sorry for any confusion there. This is just another function that actually lets you start and stop rather than continually going. You can once again read through these on your own. I'm not going to go through each one, but this is a nice little cheat sheet just to reference back to when needed. You have your on enable or on disable. So if you want to actually enable or disable something like Awake Starter Update, let's disable this from then on. You can do that using these. On collision is one you'll actually see a lot. Very simple. You should know exactly what that means already, but it's a rigid body collision within Unity. Fixed update. This is important. You will see fixed update quite a bit as well as the awaken start, and it's called at a fixed interval. So it's used with physics, like applying forces to things, something that needs to happen. It doesn't vary with your frame rate at all. It is just always fixed. So you will see this one quite a bit as well, and it's continually done throughout, just like update. So that's why it's called quite a bit. You'll have on application quit, on destroy. So these are things that happens when the application is quit. What do you want to do? Things like saving a game, okay? On destroy, so called right before an object is destroyed. So this might be something you have this particle effect or explosion or something else that when something's destroyed and then it adds points to your player. So these are just some common ones that you're going to see quite a bit. At the very top of this, you do have a couple links to Unity manuals. And what those are is quick references for you to use. The very top one is this right here. I love this because I'm a visual person. It really shows me, okay, awake is first, then we go to start, then we have this fixed update that we're using with physics. Then we have game logic, so we have input events like on mouse or on button or whatever. And it just goes through different things that are very common and used in preset Unity functions for you to quickly see why would these be used. Okay, I highly recommend that you save this link, save the documents, that you have it easily, because when you're doing a tutorial, it's just great to reference back and say, oh, why did they use that then? Oh, I see, this is why, so on. The other link is just to the Unity manual in general. You can see so many different things here. Unity 2017, which is what we have now, does have a lot of new features. I haven't even checked out all these new features. There's so much. But if there's a certain area you're working in or want to know more about, there's quick links to really go over that with you. I highly recommend if you're really into graphics, if you know you're going to be someone that's doing scripting, whatever you're into, check out that section specifically. Or if you're in a tutorial and it's not working, you're in Unity 5, we're in 2017 now, go and look in that section and see if there's some differences from one version to the next where you can actually figure out those errors on your own. Any questions, let me know, but hopefully this at least gives you an introduction to when you start to do some of the tutorials, the light bulb can go off and you can say, oh yeah, I remember her talking about the awake function. I remember the start function and why we're using it now. Because you really want to start to learn why you're doing something. It's wonderful to be able to follow tutorials, use Google wisely, problem solve, but it's also time to start making the connections from one thing to another. Any questions? Let me know.